General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, July 22nd reveal that Porsche is quietly crumbling beneath the weight of a secret she never wanted to keep, caught in a dangerous storm fueled by manipulation, fear, and the increasingly erratic tactics of Drew. On the surface, she continues to wear the composed facade of a respected doctor and devoted mother, but inside, she's consumed by dread. The burden she carries, knowledge of altered test results connected to Michael, is a ticking time bomb, and now she's been backed into a corner with nowhere left to run. Drew, relentless and coldly calculating, has begun using that secret as leverage in his personal vendetta against Michael, pushing Porsche further into an emotional abyss she can no longer manage alone. Isaiah, ever present and quietly dependable, senses the tension in Porsche before she even speaks it aloud. He doesn't press her for details. He doesn't demand explanations. Instead, he stands beside her like a steady anchor in a storm, providing the emotional space and reassurance she desperately needs. While others overlook her distress, Isaiah sees the shadows behind her eyes. The subtle tremors in her voice, the exhaustion in her movements. He knows something is wrong. He doesn't know the full truth, yet, but he knows enough to recognize that Porsche is slipping, inch by inch, under the pressure of something bigger than herself. Porsche never imagined she'd be put in a position like this. She had always valued integrity, truth, and protecting her patients. But when Drew came to her with demands, veiled as requests, wrapped in threats, Porsche found herself making a choice that violated every principle she once held sacred. She didn't change Michael's test results directly, but she played a role in creating the illusion, pressured into silence while Drew manipulated the situation to suit his agenda. And now, as the consequences begin to mount, Porsche is the one left holding the pieces, terrified of what will happen if the truth comes out, not just for her career, but for Trina, for Curtis, for everyone she loves. The guilt is unbearable. The fear is worse. She replays the moment she allowed herself to be complicit over and over again in her mind. Each time wondering if she could have chosen differently, if she should have spoken out, even if it meant losing everything. But it's too late for regret now. Drew is moving fast. His actions growing more reckless by the day, and Porsche knows that if she doesn't find a way to contain the damage, he'll destroy Michael, and drag her down in the process. But she can't do it alone. She begins confiding in Isaiah in vague terms, testing the waters, dropping breadcrumbs. At first, it's just emotional unloading, a quiet admission that something feels out of control. That she's made a mistake, that someone is using her in ways she never thought possible. Isaiah listens without judgment, his presence unwavering, offering calm where she feels only chaos. And in those moments, Porsche feels the first sliver of relief she's had in weeks. But even as she finds strength in his support, the danger around her continues to build. Drew becomes more aggressive, leveraging his influence and political power to push Michael into a corner. Every move he makes puts Porsche in greater jeopardy, and the walls begin closing in. She receives cryptic messages. Her hospital records are flagged for review. She hears whispers in the corridors, faint, but sharp enough to suggest suspicion is spreading. And now, Michael has begun asking questions too. He doesn't know what happened yet, but he knows something is off. Porsche can see it in his eyes. The moment of reckoning is approaching, and she knows that when it comes, she will be forced to choose. Protect herself, or expose Drew's ruthless manipulation. Isaiah urges her to come clean before it's too late, but Porsche is torn. The fear of losing everything, her medical license, her family, her reputation, is paralyzing. But so is the thought of letting Drew continue unchecked. The weight of the secret, once bearable, now feels like a chain around her throat. She can't sleep. She can't focus. She can't look her patients in the eye without feeling like a fraud. And worst of all, she can't shake the growing paranoia that someone is watching her, waiting for her to slip. The emotional toll deepens, and Porsche begins to unravel. She withdraws from those around her, even Trina. Terrified that any misstep will unravel the carefully constructed narrative she's tried so hard to maintain. Every time Drew calls, she feels the panic rise. Every time Isaiah asks if she's okay, she lies, but the cracks are showing, and everyone is beginning to see them. Still, Isaiah remains by her side, quietly insisting she doesn't have to fight alone. His presence becomes the only constant in her unraveling world. And in a quiet moment of desperation, Porsche finally admits the truth, not just about Drew's manipulation, but about her own role in the deception. The confession is raw, painful, and terrifying, but it is also the first step toward reclaiming her agency. Isaiah doesn't flinch. He doesn't walk away. Instead, he holds her hands and tells her the most important truth of all: redemption is still possible, but only if she chooses it before the darkness consumes her completely. Now, Porsche stands at the edge of a terrifying decision. She can stay silent and let Drew continue his vendetta, sacrificing Michael and her own peace of mind in the process. Or she can expose everything, risking her career, her relationships, and her place in Port Charles, but finally putting an end to the web of lies. And with Isaiah by her side, whispering courage into her fractured soul, she begins to see a path forward. It won't be easy. It won't be safe. But it might be the only way to escape the suffocating hold of Drew's control, and finally reclaim the truth that has haunted her for far too long. Martin Gray has reached a critical breaking point, one that compels him to seek out Tracy Quartermaine in the dead of night with something urgent and deeply personal weighing on his conscience. For too long, he has watched chaos build silently around them, but now, the rising tension surrounding Lulu Spencer has grown too volatile to ignore. Whispers of her mental instability, her increasing paranoia over Britt's return, and the escalating pressure tied to Rocco's emotional turmoil are beginning to morph from private concern into public crisis. And for someone like Martin, who has spent most of his life operating in gray areas, even he knows the situation has crossed into dangerous territory. What he brings to Tracy is more than just gossip or worry, it's a signal flare. A confession that the storm brewing around Lulu could spill into something far darker if they don't act fast. Martin has always been cautious. He doesn't speak unless he has something worth saying. But tonight, his hands tremble slightly, his voice strained, as he lays out the fragments he's pieced together, subtle interactions, veiled threats, unspoken alliances forming around Lulu. Especially as she becomes more entangled in the fallout of Britt's reappearance and Rocco's fragile emotional state. Something isn't right. Her behavior is increasingly erratic. She's clashing with people she once trusted. And worst of all, she's not listening to anyone, not even herself. Martin fears that someone is manipulating Lulu's current instability for their own agenda, and if they don't intervene, the damage could be irreversible. Whether it's Drew's influence, Carly's strategic silence, or a deeper conspiracy connected to the remnants of WSB's secrets left by Robert, Martin doesn't yet know. But he's certain of one thing. Lulu is not just unraveling, she's being pushed. Tracy, hardened by decades of Quartermaine warfare and sharpened by loss, immediately understands the gravity of Martin's concerns. She too has seen the warning signs: disconnected behavior, bursts of anger, impulsive decisions with long-term consequences. While Tracy has never been one to let emotion cloud her judgment, she does have one weakness: family. And though Lulu isn't hers by blood, she is undeniably part of the extended Quartermaine web, and Tracy knows what happens when one thread snaps. The whole fabric begins to tear. What worries her more, however, is the political and reputational fallout that could come if Lulu becomes the face of another Port Charles tragedy. The family can't afford it. The hospital can't afford it. And deep down, Tracy suspects that whatever is pulling Lulu apart may not stop with her. This is why the alliance between Martin and Tracy, two of Port Charles's most underestimated tacticians, becomes more than just necessary. It becomes urgent. Martin proposes that they begin quietly gathering information, not just on Lulu's recent behavior, but on the people around her. Who's feeding her paranoia? Who's benefiting from her unraveling? And more importantly, who's watching, waiting, and perhaps even encouraging her descent? Tracy, skeptical but intrigued, agrees, on the condition that whatever they discover, they keep it out of the public eye until they can use it strategically. She's not interested in panic. She's interested in power. But Martin, driven more by conscience than control, pushes back. This time, it isn't about leverage. It's about protection. Lulu needs help. Rocco needs stability. And the entire community needs to stop pretending this isn't happening. As they begin working in secret, what they uncover sends chills down their spines. Medical files with inconsistencies. Hospital reports buried in administrative limbo. Anomalies in Lulu's treatment history. And shadow communications between known WSB operatives and someone tied to the Quartermain estate. It's no longer a theory, someone is actively destabilizing Lulu, and if they don't move quickly, she could become either a scapegoat or a casualty. The worst part? There are signs that someone is using Lulu's name to reopen old cases tied to Robert Scorpio's final investigations, possibly even to access locked files or sealed intelligence. And if those secrets come to light, especially in Lulu's current state, the ripple effects could reach every family in Port Charles, including Tracy's. Now faced with the undeniable threat. Martin and Tracy know they must act, not just to protect Lulu but to protect themselves from being implicated in whatever comes next. They begin building a firewall, reconnecting with old allies. Securing legal documentation, preparing public statements if needed. Tracy uses her influence at GH to stall a psychological evaluation being pushed through suspicious channels. While Martin tracks financial transfers that point to external manipulation. Together, they work like clockwork. Their uneasy alliance becoming the only line of defense against a storm no one else seems to notice, or is too afraid to name. But as they delve deeper, they both come to a chilling realization. The people pulling the strings aren't just targeting Lulu. They're setting a trap meant to explode across multiple fronts, dragging in Michael, Carly, Porsche, even the remnants of Robert's legacy. And if they don't stay ahead of it, they'll all be buried under the fallout. For the first time, Tracy feels genuinely outpaced. And Martin, no stranger to secrets, begins to wonder if they're not already too late. In this moment of accelerating chaos, one thing becomes terrifyingly clear. Port Charles is on the brink of another reckoning. And the story doesn't end with Lulu. She is merely the spark. The fire is coming. And unless Martin and Tracy can act fast, it will consume everything in its path. Laura is on the verge of receiving information that will shake the very foundation of her world. A revelation so deeply unsettling that even her decades of experience navigating the treacherous waters of Port Charles politics won't be enough to immediately steady her. The warning signs have been subtle at first, anonymous messages sent to her office, curious gaps in her security briefings, internal documents going missing. And whispers of someone operating behind the scenes with dangerous intent. But now, the full weight of what's coming is beginning to take shape. Ezra, a name that only recently re-entered her orbit with calculated precision, is not just positioning himself for influence, he is preparing for an all-out political assault with one single goal. Forcing Laura out of the mayor's office once and for all. Ezra's return to the canvas has been slow and deliberate, masked behind a polite smile and well-funded contributions to civic programs. But those close to him know better. He doesn't enter arenas without a plan, and his plan this time is layered, ruthless, and deeply personal. Laura, once a symbol of unity in a fractured town, is now being painted, quietly, maliciously, as the very source of Port Charles's recent instability. And Ezra is making sure that narrative spreads like poison through the political bloodstream. He is leveraging everything, whispers of past WSB involvement, questions about her objectivity in recent scandals, and even resurrecting controversies surrounding Nicholas and the Cassidy name. To Ezra, this isn't just about power. It's about erasure. He wants Laura off the board completely, and he's willing to go to unimaginable lengths to see it done. The information Laura is about to receive connects all the dots in a terrifyingly clear way. Financial records linking Ezra to shadow donors who have been quietly supporting dissent in city council chambers. Secret communications between Ezra's team and political operatives from outside Port Charles, hinting at a larger smear campaign designed to not only remove Laura from office, but discredit her entirely, casting doubt on her leadership, questioning her mental fitness, and drawing a direct line between her mayoral decisions and the recent uptick in citywide unrest. What stuns Laura isn't just the aggression of the strategy, but the fact that she didn't see it coming. Ezra was always ambitious. But she underestimated the depth of his obsession with control and the lengths he'd go to dismantle her influence brick by brick. This isn't just a political maneuver. It's psychological warfare. And Laura feels it. The pressure is mounting in every corner of her life. Longtime allies are suddenly distant. The press is growing more hostile. Even those closest to her begin asking loaded questions about her ability to continue leading. Ezra is everywhere, subtle, insidious, unrelenting. He's working to isolate her, destabilize her support system, and force her to step down before she even fully understands the battlefield she's been dragged onto. And it's working. Laura begins second-guessing her decisions, questioning the loyalty of those around her, and feeling the suffocating burden of holding the city together while someone is methodically taking it apart behind her back. But the worst part, the most emotionally devastating aspect, is the realization that Ezra's attack is deeply personal. It's not just about policy or power. It's about legacy. Ezra wants to tarnish everything Laura built, to twist her decades of service into a narrative of failure, and to do so in a way that leaves her with no path to redemption. He's already begun leaking carefully curated information to reporters, framing her mayoral term as negligent, even dangerous. He's exploiting her family's complicated history, twisting Nicholas's past actions, leveraging Spencer's rebellion, and insinuating that her emotional ties clouded her judgment. Every choice Laura made from a place of compassion is now being weaponized against her. And she knows that once this storm breaks, the damage will be immense. Ezra is preparing a public reveal, one designed to coincide with a major press event, and the contents of that expose could end her political career in one stroke. The narrative is airtight. The data is distorted but compelling. The imagery is brutal. And it's coming. Fast. The terror gripping Laura now is not just about the loss of office, it's about the unraveling of her entire identity. She has spent years as the moral anchor of Port Charles, rising from personal tragedy to public service, always believing in the strength of community and the power of redemption. But Ezra is threatening to take all of that away, to render her a footnote in the very town she helped rebuild. And the people she once trusted to rally around her are either silent or compromised. The loneliness is deafening. Still, Laura is not someone who collapses easily. The fear may be real, the threat may be overwhelming. But within her burns a fierce resolve, one forged through decades of loss, resilience, and hard-won survival. She knows she needs to act, and act quickly. She begins assembling her own quiet network of support, reaching out to allies beyond City Hall, diving into her own investigation of Ezra's real motives. She knows there must be more. Ezra is not operating alone. Someone is backing him. And if she can expose that force, if she can reveal the rot beneath the polished campaign, she might still have a chance to fight back. But time is running out. Ezra's offensive is accelerating. The press is circling. Internal leaks are sabotaging her every move. And every hour that passes brings her closer to public disgrace. What Laura is about to face is more than just political loss. It's the deconstruction of everything she's fought to build, the rewriting of her legacy by someone who has made her downfall a mission. This is no longer about leadership. It's about survival. About holding on to truth in a world that increasingly rewards the lie. And as Laura prepares to open the file that contains the confirmation of everything she's feared, proof of Ezra's infiltration, his manipulation, his plan, she knows the choice before her is brutal. Step down quietly and salvage what little dignity she can, or fight back and risk losing everything. And yet, deep down, in the quiet place where her strength has always lived, Laura knows one thing. If Ezra wants a war, she will give him one. Because Port Charles is still her home. And no matter how powerful the enemy, Laura Collins does not surrender to fear. Sidwell has begun making bold and secretive moves across Port Charles. His actions cloaked in the kind of careful precision that signals something far more sinister than simple political maneuvering or business ambition. The shift is palpable. Once a figure lurking quietly in the background, Sidwell is now at the center of a storm that no one fully understands yet, but its effects are beginning to ripple across key power structures in town. People are going missing. Hospital records are quietly altered. Financial trails are being erased. Those who speak his name in passing do so with growing caution, aware that something dangerous is unfolding behind the scenes. It's no longer speculation, it's evident now that Sidwell is not just reacting to danger. He is orchestrating it. This new evolution in Sidwell's behavior is sparking concern in unlikely places. Lucas, long removed from the political shadows and focused on rebuilding his life, begins noticing inconsistencies, minor details at first, but ones that don't add up. He sees patients disappearing from his caseload without proper discharge forms. He reviews administrative notes that don't match previous entries. And most disturbingly, he comes across encrypted correspondences buried in hospital data archives, messages linked to a confidential access code that traces back to Sidwell's name. Lucas's instincts flare to life. He knows cover-ups when he sees them. And what's happening now isn't just bureaucratic mishandling, it's deliberate obfuscation. The deeper Lucas digs, the clearer the pattern becomes. There are references to off-book research projects, whispered connections to WSB remnants, and signs that Sidwell may be funneling sensitive data through ghost networks tied to old intelligence channels. But there's something more chilling beneath the surface. Hidden in one of the access logs is a name he hadn't expected to see, Marco. The moment Lucas sees the connection, something clicks. This isn't just corruption. It's an operation. And Sidwell is using hospital infrastructure, private health data, and possible off-grid funding to move pieces in a much larger, more dangerous game. Lucas wastes no time. He knows that exposing this kind of conspiracy too soon, without backup, could get him silenced, or worse. Instead, he quietly reaches out to Marco, sharing what he's uncovered, encrypting his report with surgical precision. Marco, already watching Sidwell with cautious interest, is shaken by the scale of what Lucas delivers. This isn't just shady dealings. It's a potential breach of national security, a reawakening of factions long thought dormant. Sidwell, it seems, is not acting alone. And the implications stretch far beyond Port Charles. Marco immediately begins his own verification, cross-referencing intel from private security channels, pulling favors from old intelligence contacts, and rerunning background profiles on everyone Sidwell has recently interacted with. What Marco finds corroborates Lucas's worst fears. Sidwell has been meeting with individuals tied to defunct black ops cells, names scrubbed from federal databases, faces believed to be dead or missing. His financials are sanitized with layers of offshore proxies, and his presence in Port Charles now appears to be part of a larger agenda. Whether it's connected to biotech weaponization, psychological conditioning, or data mining through medical records, no one knows for certain. But the danger is real, and Lucas has now placed himself squarely in its path. Together, Lucas and Marco begin planning the next step. They must move carefully. If Sidwell catches wind of their investigation too soon, the damage could be irreversible. They need proof, undeniable, explosive, and clean. Lucas begins planting silent tracers in Sidwell's system, while Marco mobilizes external teams to begin surveillance on known Sidwell affiliates. Time is of the essence. Because whatever Sidwell is planning, it is escalating. There are rumors of a Phase 2, referenced only in passing in one of the encrypted files. What that means remains unclear. But the language surrounding it suggests urgency, scale, and the potential for civilian collateral. As the operation intensifies, Lucas starts to feel the weight of what he's become a part of. The lines between medicine and espionage, between duty and danger, are beginning to blur. He walks the halls of General Hospital knowing that every step he takes might be monitored. Every conversation recorded. Sidwell's influence has crept into the bones of the institution, and now Lucas is racing against time to extract the truth before everything collapses. And the scariest part? Sidwell knows someone is watching. He's begun leaving subtle warnings, files that close themselves, encrypted folders that vanish after one view. A hospital report with Lucas's name spelled incorrectly, almost deliberately. It's psychological warfare, and Lucas is being baited, tested. Sidwell isn't just hiding something. He's daring someone to find it. And now, the game is fully in motion. Poor Charles is on the verge of a dangerous revelation, and only two men, Lucas, with his determination and conscience, and Marco, with his strategic mind and connections, stand between Sidwell's rising shadow and the devastation that could follow. But time is running out, and the next move Sidwell makes could change everything.